Okay, I think that's going to be for now. So let's get started. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending our talk today. My name is Melissa. I am one of the co-founders for Wildflower Homeschool Collective. I'll be talking to you today about how I do my homeschool planning in Google Drive. So when I first started homeschooling, I'm trying to actually reduce this a little bit. There we go. When I first started homeschooling, I was using paper planners. And they were pretty, they were nice, but they weren't really working for me. A lot of paper planners came with either too little space for me to include all of my multiple children that I wanted to homeschool, or they came with way too much stuff inside of it. They wanted me to plan my whole entire life with my homeschooling planning, and I didn't want to do that. So after about my second year of homeschooling, I started trying to think of a different system to use. And the one that I landed on was Google Drive. It's something that I had been really familiar with from college and my work years. And I knew that it was going to help me just kind of eliminate the physical clutter of paper planners. It was also going to be something I could easily change and reuse again and again over the years. And I knew it was also something I could share with my family very easily. For those of you who use Google, you know that it syncs up to your phone. It can sync up to all of your devices. So if you share something with other people in your family, they make it very easy. So many people coming in still. It's also completely free. So all you need is a Gmail account, which is free, and then you automatically get access to all of the Google Drive tools. Now today, I'm not gonna go over every single Google Drive tool. That would end up being like a 3-day workshop instead of a 1-hour one, but I am gonna go over Google Sheets because this is the main tool that I use to do my homeschool planning. So before I sit down to plan, I actually, I think about my kids' interests first. You know, our family, we do a lot of family meetings throughout the year, multiple times throughout the year, not just at the beginning or the end. And I'm constantly asking my kids about what they're interested in, what they're not interested in, what's working for them, what isn't working, what they're struggling with, what they think they could be more challenged by, what they wish they could do more of in our homeschool. And they come up with some wild ideas sometimes, for sure, but a lot of times it's completely reasonable things. So I do like to focus as much of my planning as possible around what my kids want to do and what they're interested in. And then after that, I start thinking about those academic things that can't be left off, you know, the math, the language arts, the topics that are needed to kind of help their skills continue growing from year to year. And it's not necessarily because they're in a certain grade or they're a certain age, but just because I don't want them to ever be stagnant in their skills. I always want their skills to keep growing. So I don't like to let some of those academic foundations, I don't like to let go of them too much. So then there are other things that I do that I plan in advance, like my yearly and my monthly sheets, for example. I do plan those out in advance. Today, we're actually going to be showing you step by step how I make my monthly planning sheet. I think this one is the one that people can get the most use out of, especially those of you who are using different curricula inside the house or have multiple children at different levels. The advanced monthly plan is a really great way to go. Other things like my weekly plan, I actually plan in reverse. And reverse planning is a term coined by Julie Bogart, the creator of Brave Writer. That's been our language arts curriculum for about 5 years now. And when I heard about reverse planning from her, I just kind of fell in love and I've stuck with it ever since. So I think a lot of times as homeschooling parents, we get caught up in these doubts about ourselves and about our kids, and we start questioning a lot about whether our kids are learning, whether we are doing enough for them, whether we are doing enough in general, covering enough topics, enough books, enough projects. And sometimes planning in advance and making our homeschool all about ticking the boxes that we planned out, sometimes it can add to that anxiety. But with reverse planning, I really found it very helpful for me to let go of those anxieties and to let go of those doubts. Because when I look back on my week and I sit at the end of the week and I just fill in whatever we accomplished from week to week, and then I look back over the months and over the year, I'm always amazed and I'm pleasantly surprised at how much we actually do accomplish. You know, I'm like, wow, we went through so many lessons and we read so many books and we took so many trips. And I end up looking at my children and my homeschool from this really grateful space in my head instead of this very critical one of focusing on all the little nitty-gritty things that we missed or maybe we got delayed. Instead, I'm just appreciating all of the things that we were able to do. So reverse planning is really great for that. And at the end of the day, you know, planning, as important as it can be for us to get our minds straight and just get all of the ideas out of our heads and onto something that is organized, it really shouldn't be a source of stress for the household. For you, first and foremost, it shouldn't be a source of stress, and especially for your kids. You know, you always want to focus on your overall goals with your family and prioritize those relationships that you're building with your children over sticking to the plan. You know, if you have a happy, healthy, loving household, that is a far better outcome at the end of the year than whether or not you finished the curriculum book. So we're gonna get started into the Google Drive building. I'm hoping that you guys got the message in the email about having another device with you, because this is going to be me sharing my Google Sheets screen with you and literally going step by step into how I build out my forms and how I input my information. So if you need to grab another device with you so that way you can do that work, please do it now. I feel like that practice is going to be very important to helping to keep some of these ideas in your head. So just take a minute and get that ready, and I'm going to switch to my other screen. And if you guys have any questions at any point, please just put them in the chat. Are there any questions at this point? No. Okay, good. Is everybody ready to go? Let me know in the chat that you guys are ready, please. Okay, great. Great, good, great. And I have a tendency to talk a little bit fast, so if you need to slow me down, just let me know. I do have my better half, Christina, is in the group. She is the other co-founder of Wildflower. And she will be here to let me know if I need to catch up with anybody's questions or to slow down. So remember to say things. Okay, good. So it looks like a lot of you are ready. So I'm gonna pretend that this is the first time you guys have ever used Drive before. So when you open up your email, your Google email, your Gmail, you're gonna have this little array of dots in the corner by your profile avatar. Okay, I want you to click those dots. And then what you're gonna see, move the chat out of my way. What you're going to see when you click that, you're gonna see all the Drive tools pop up. Okay, now there's lots of things that come free with Drive. It's really cool, actually. I like to just sift through these one at a time sometimes. But the one we're gonna use today is our Drive. Okay, and it's when you click that button, it's gonna take you to a dashboard that looks something like this. Now, I'm actually not on my main dashboard. I'm already in one of my folders. So I want you guys to think of your Google Drive as like an electronic filing cabinet. If you have old aluminum file cabinets that always takes a bunch of space in your house and has all your documents inside, that's what Google Drive is for electronic space, okay? So once you get in here, you're gonna have this menu on the left, and we're gonna click New, and we're gonna go down to Google Sheets. This is the main tool that I use when I'm doing my homeschool planning, okay? And we're gonna just click Blank Spreadsheet because we do wanna make this from scratch, okay? We're not gonna start with a template today. If you're interested in templates, actually, we've created a template pack for you guys that includes a yearly, a monthly, a weekly view, and a daily assignment sheet. And they're gonna be on sale after this talk. We're gonna send out a link in the email for that. But today's work, we're just gonna focus on building our sheet out from scratch. So let me know when you guys have this open and I can keep going. Oh, are those notification pings getting loud? Sorry about that. They're actually all coming from my computer because it's people trying to get into the room. So hopefully they won't cause too much of a disruption. Yes, we are going to record this talk. It's being recorded as I speak, and it will be made available later. Okay, so now we're in our drive sheet, right? Our blank. Is everybody here? All right, a few yeses. Yes, yes. Okay, great. So now we're building on a monthly view. I want you guys to tell me what you think are some things that are important that I would need to kind of frame out what I wanted to do during the month. What are two main things that I'm going to need to do to frame this out? What would I need? Imagine like a chart. If I'm making a chart, what two categories would I need in my chart for a monthly view? Anybody? Subjects, yes. Thank you, Jess. And the months, right. Thank you, Christina. So we need our subjects and we need our months. So let's just assume that we're doing a 10-month school year. Now, if you're not doing a 10-month school year, you don't have to. You can put all 12 months of the year on here if you want to. However you guys approach your homeschool, however you teach your children, is how I want you to build out your sheet, okay? I'm just gonna do some very generic for the sake of this talk. So we need 10 months out of our year. So I'm gonna put my 10 months across the top, okay? And I'm gonna count out basically 10 cells. Now, when you're working in sheets, these little boxes that are empty where we put our information, these are called, and all I'm gonna do is count out 10 of them, okay? So I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, okay? And I'm gonna put a border all of these boxes. So there's my 10 months, okay? And I'm gonna put another one right on top of it, the same length and the same distance, and you guys can do this too on your end. And this is gonna be my title bar, basically. So instead of putting a border in here, I want all of these little cells to come together as one cell. And this is called merging. I'm gonna use this tool right here. It says merge cells. And now that whole block just became one block, okay? And then I'm gonna put a border around that. Why am I putting borders? It's just to help me visually distinguish where my information is gonna go, okay? And at the end, it just looks nicer. I'm a little picky about how my sheets look. And so in this block, now I'm gonna type out, this is the months of the year. And I'm not the best typist in the world, so please excuse me if I end up with typos in places where they don't belong. And I'm gonna center that text. Right here is my text alignment. You can have left, center, or right aligned. I'm gonna center this text right in the middle. Maza, to merge, you're just selecting the cells that you want, and you're clicking the merge button right here at the top on your toolbar. So if I unclick it, this just took my merge away, and then when I click it back, it just brought it back together. So now this whole box is for that one title. Everyone with me now? I'm starting off slow, and then we're gonna add in some cool stuff as we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna work. Okay, so I know people are on different devices, and you also may be on Macs, and some other people may be on PCs. I'm on a PC, I'm not sure what the shortcuts are for a Mac. So whatever your shortcuts are for things like copying and pasting, holding down and dragging, just use those tools that you know from your computer, and they should work with your drive. Okay, great. So now I'm gonna put in my subjects, okay? And I'm gonna start on this line over here, and my subjects are gonna go down. And I'm only gonna put about 5 blocks for subjects right now. However many subjects you have in your homeschool, whether it's 2, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, I want you to just put that number of blocks for yourself, okay? I'm just gonna start off with 5. And I'm gonna put a border around them, just like I did with my months of the year. So the border I used at the beginning, when I highlighted, was this one right here that it kind of looks like a window pane. which means that it's going to add a border to all sections of my cells, around them and on the inside of them. Okay, and then right above here, right next to my months of the year, I'm going to put the title subjects, and I'm going to add a border all the way around it, an outside border. So now it looks just like that one, and I'm going to center it just like I did with my months of the year. Okay, so now I have a basic framework for what I want to do. Is everyone, are we all at the same spot now? Okay, good. So now what I'm going to do with this empty space right here, is just dead space for me. I'm just going to fill it in black for now because I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to put anything in there. Okay, so all I did was I selected that cell, I came to the fill color, and I clicked black. Okay, that's just dead space for me. So now before I start filling in the names of my months and the names of my subject, I'm going to think about how many children I'm trying to plan and keep track of. Okay, now I have 4 children, but I don't necessarily keep track of all 4 of them on my sheet because not all 4 of them are, in my opinion, old enough for me to plan formal things for. So like my 4.5-year-old, for example, spends 99% of his day in free play, and I am okay with that. So I'm not going to bother putting him in on this sheet. But let's say I do want to keep track of my other 3 children. If you have 2 children, if you have 5 children, however many you have, I want you to keep that in mind when we're building this sheet out. So what I need, because this cell, if this were a subject like math, I only have 1 cell here to put information for all of my children, and that's not enough. So I want to create additional cells in between this block for each of my children. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this cell, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to insert one above. And that just added a new cell right on top. And I'm going to do that again because I'm going to pretend that this is for planning for 3 children. Okay? So now I have 1, 2, 3 cells. And I want to bring all 3 of those together. Does anyone remember what tool I used to bring my cells together? You put it in the chat? Pop quiz time. Merge, yes, thank you, Samrana. So I'm going to merge these cells together. And now this will be my subject, and I have space for 1, 2, 3 children in every month that I can their information for. You guys see that? And I'm going to copy this for the other subjects. Now I can select the next one and insert above and above and above like I did before, but that takes a lot of time. I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm just going to click on this big cell here, first one. See this little box at the corner? I'm going to hold that and I'm going to drag it down. And it's going to automatically replicate what I already made. And I only need to do it until I get to 5. And it actually did 6 for me. You can see the other 2 right there. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 now. And I'm just going to add my borders around those as well. Okay? So now I have 6 different subjects I could work with. And I have space to input for each of my children. Does everyone understand how we got there? I know the newcomers into the room may be a little bit behind. We are in the process of building out a monthly planning sheet. All right, good. So the next step we're going to do, I'm going to add some basic borders along the edge here, just to rule out my blocks. So we're going to put an outer border there. We're going to put an outer border here. Okay, and I'm going to do it all the way down. Is everyone seeing that? I'm doing it nice and slow so you guys can keep up with me. And all we're doing is building out that framework, okay? Now what I can also do is put in the lines for each of my months. This is the column. Highlighted my column here for the month. And all I need to do this time is add the right wall. And then I can literally just copy that and paste it for each of the other months. And that wall will now appear down all of my columns. So now I have this nice grid that's all bordered out. No worries if you got in late, it's okay. Okay, does everyone have their walls built out? Not yet? Okay, we'll give it another minute. Take a sip of my water. Okay, so to do the walls, you're just gonna highlight the section you want. And if you're gonna do a wall all the way around, you can click this one, outer border. If you only need one section of the wall, like the columns, you highlight all the way down, and you just click whichever side you need the wall on. It's a border. I'm just calling it a wall. Sorry, it might be confusing people. It's a border for the right side. You have left side, you have top, you have bottom. So I just added from my columns because my other sides were already filled in. I just did the right border all the way down. And instead of going one at a time and repeating that step, I just copied and pasted the whole column and just kept pasting it for every month. Okay. So now our grid is not so naked, right? Now it's all lined out and I can distinctly see the spaces that I have to use, okay? So now I'm going to show you guys the next tool. We need to put our months in these spaces, okay? And like I said, if you're doing, you want every month of the year, that's fine by me. I have 10 months here that I laid out. And I'm just gonna say for the sake of this talk that we're gonna start in September and we're gonna go all the way to June, okay? But I don't want these to stay white, okay? I like my sheets to have a little bit of coloring to them. The main frameworks I like to be neutral, and the inside I actually color code for each one of my children. So it'll get bolder then. But for now, we're just gonna do the neutrals. And this makes it a little prettier and a little easier to read. So what I wanna do is I wanna select every other cell for where I wanna type in my month name. Okay, so I'm gonna hold down the first one, click it, and then on my computer, it's Control, and then I click the next one that I wanna select. And I keep holding Control as I click all the cells I want. And it selects every other one, like I mentioned. Do I have 10 here? Yes, I do. Okay, so I held that down, and then I'm gonna format this. Okay, I'm gonna use conditional formatting. That's a big term. You're just gonna come to format, and then come to conditional formatting. And all this are rules that you can apply to your Google Sheet to make it behave a certain way. For this instance, I'm going to do a color rule, okay? And you can see that it has selected the specific cells that I selected based on the grid, okay? They are lettered and numbered. So this is cell B in row 4. That's the one I highlighted. This is cell D in row 4. That's what these numbers are corresponding to if you just look at your grid. And I'm gonna format them with a rule. Now you have a long laundry list of rules here that you could use. We're going to use this one. It's very simple. If the cell is not empty, which means if I have typed into this cell, it's going to behave how I tell it to. And I want it to behave by making my text bold. I want it to behave by making my text black. And I want the background color to be this light gray number 1. And then I'm going to click done. So now you can see the rule is here. It's showing you exactly what it's like in those cells, and it's going to be there. I'm going to do the same thing now for the other cells in between that I did not select before. Okay, so now I've selected the other ones, and I'm going to go Format, Conditional Formatting again. Here's the cells I selected. If they're not empty, I want my text to be bold. I'd like it to be black, and I'd like it to be light gray number 1. Okay, click done, and now that rule has been applied to those cells. So now, when I come to type in my cells, September, enter. It automatically bolded and colored my text. And actually, you know what? One of my rules here, I put in the wrong way, so I'm going to fix that right now. I selected the wrong gray here. I wanted it to be this light one, light gray number 3. So now I have a darker gray and a lighter gray. So as I'm filling in my month titles, the rules are being automatically applied and coloring my form for me. So this way I don't have to sit here and type and then fill and then bold and then type and then fill and then bold and type and then fill and then bold. That rule is going to save me time in building out my sheet. Is everyone with me on this step? Yes, thank you to those of you who are giving out the commands for Macs. I don't know them. I don't have a Mac. So whatever commands you need, just put them to work, okay? All right, so everyone understand that conditional formatting, because we're going to use it again. We're going to use it again now on this side for our subjects. Oh, good. I'm glad it helped. Okay. I do apologize about the dings. I am letting people into the room as I talk. Okay, so I'm going to do the same exact thing I just did, conditional formatting. Every other box, I'm going to follow the same exact color scheme, but now I'm going to do it for my subjects. Okay, so let's see. We're going to highlight every other one. Format, conditional formatting. Not empty. Going to make bold, black, and light gray number 1. You can choose whatever colors you want, by the way. You don't have to choose light gray. There's a huge scheme of colors you can pick. If you don't like any of these, you can actually create your own custom color by clicking the X and going to the color wheel. And you can just move this around to any shade, hue, tone, color that you could ever possibly imagine, and you will get whatever color you want in those boxes. Like I said, I like to keep my framework neutral because my inside starts to really brighten up once I color code for my kids. But if you don't like gray, use whatever colors you want. Okay, so I'm back to my light gray number 1. That's done. And I'm going to select my other ones, and we're going to add our formatting for my other light gray there. And it's light gray number 3 this time. Okay, and then I can fill in my subjects. So I'm just going to put in some really basic subjects that people might use with their homeschool. Let's say we have math. Let's say we have English language arts. I just put that down as ELA. This one may be science. This one may be art. This one down here may be social studies, which is history, geography, government, all sorts of things. And this one down here, let's just call this spiritual studies. If anyone is coming from a faith background and they want to include faith learning in their homeschooling as a subject, we'll just fill that in there, okay? So now that, again, it automatically coded, it followed that rule just like I had up here at the top. And I didn't have to sit here each and every one bolding, making sure it was black, making sure it was filled into the color that I wanted. Yes, Hasina, I will show it one last time, okay? So I'm gonna show you the conditional formatting again. So all you need to do is highlight a cell. I'm gonna show you off to the side of my chart actually, so that way it doesn't interfere with what we've been building. You highlight the cells that you want, and then you come to format, and you come down to conditional formatting. This is just applying a color rule. It's going to show you the cell that you selected or the multiple cells that you selected if you're selecting multiple ones. And then you're going to apply the rule. In this case, we're using a very simple rule, is not empty, which means that as soon as I type anything into that box, it's going to apply the rule. I'm doing bold, I'm doing black text, and I'm doing the background color one of two grays, either light gray number 1 or light gray number 3, because I am alternating colors just to make it a little bit easier to read visually. Okay, so you just pick the one that you want and then you click done. And then as soon as you type into that cell, it will apply the rule for you automatically. These are very simple tools. They're actually pretty cool. I think they're pretty cool. But they do save you time when you're building out your sheets. And the good thing is that, especially when it comes to like your weekly sheet, when you build that out one time with all of your rules and formatting, all you have to do then is copy that sheet and keep duplicating it, and then you never have to mess with any of these rules again. It's already set for you. So you don't have to keep doing things from scratch. Okay, is everyone on the same page now? Are we good with our formatting? We have our months in, subjects in. And we did start a few minutes late because we're just letting people in. Okay, good. I just want to make sure nobody's falling asleep over there. Okay, good. So now I want you guys to look at what happened here. When I had math, it looked fine, ELA looked fine, science looked fine, art looked fine, social studies looked fine, but now spiritual studies. What happened to my text? It's getting cut off, right? So this happens sometimes when we have too much text for our cell. Christina, did you have something?
No, I have a good idea.
Christina, it says you're raising your hand. Okay. So my text ends up getting here on this cell. A lot of people instinctively may just want to try. Everyone please make sure that you guys are muted so we don't get the background noise interfering. So if it's not being cut off, you may just instinctively want to expand this cell to make it a little larger, right? Oh, okay, now it fits. But now let's say that I type into a different cell and this one also becomes large, right? Geography and civics and government. Okay, well now that's even longer. So now I have to keep moving this out until that fits into there, right? you would end up in this kind of trap of continuously trying to enlarge your cells. And we don't want to get into that trap. I'm going to move my cell back to where it was. And let's just leave that one there. What I want to do instead is I want to highlight all of these cells. And I want to change the way the text functions. Because right now my text is doing one thing. It's behaving a certain way. It's just typing from the left to the right, on and on and on and on forever. And it's not paying attention to my cell borders. And that's because of my text wrapping is set up that way. So when you first open your sheet, it's automatically going to be set to this overflow setting, okay? And that's what causes it to do that. We don't want it to overflow. We want it to wrap. Wrap means that the text, once it gets close to that border, will automatically move itself down to a new line. So when I click wrap text, you see how that now moved? Now my cell size doesn't need to change and my text will behave much nicer. It will automatically move itself down. Okay, and this is something I'm actually going to apply to the whole entire form, because as we're typing things in here, we may have more things that we want to say that need to fit inside the cell. So I'm just going to wrap all of my text automatically. I'm also going to put it all in the center of the boxes right here in my vertical alignment. Okay, and I'll leave it at left align. I don't mind that right now. So now with any cell that I pick, if I start typing, I go really long, it will automatically adjust itself to come down and not change the size of my cell in terms of the width. Okay, what it did change was the size of my cell in terms of the height. You guys notice that? Now I have this cell in the middle is much larger than these two. That can also get visually a little bit annoying when you're looking at it. So what you can do if that happens is you can highlight all of your cells and you see how the cursor just changed into that arrow shape? You're gonna hold that down and stretch it out just a little bit and it will automatically adjust every single one of your cells to be the same size. Did you guys see that? I'm gonna undo it. Control Z to go back and undo. So you could sit here and play around with each one and try to make them all the same size. Oh, that one's not big enough. Oh, this one needs to be smaller, but now it's getting cut off. Oh, this one needs to be larger. We don't want to mess with that. We just want to highlight all of this at one time. I want to stretch it out just a tad and it will automatically adjust so that all of my cells are the same size. And if I'm still getting cut off, I can just stretch it out a little bit more. Okay, so now I can see all of my text. Everything is the same size and I don't have to worry about it overflowing on my borders. Did everyone try that? Can I redo it? Yes, I can redo it. Okay, so I'm going to Control V to go back. So we ended up with a lot of text that was wrapped, right? We successfully wrapped our text so it doesn't overflow, but then it created these off sizes in our other cells. So instead of manually adjusting each one individually to try to match and more than likely not getting it right, I'm going to highlight all of the cells in that row and all of my rows actually goes all the way across. And I'm going to adjust it from the bottom and the cells will automatically stretch themselves to be the same size. Every one is now equal in size. And while we're here, I'm also going to make these a little larger because I've decided that I want more space to type in. This one is not working for some reason. I don't know why. Oh, I'm sorry. It's because I'm highlighting the wrong part of the cell. There we go. So now they're all the same size width as well. Okay? Got it. Great. Okay. So now we're going to get into our children. Okay? So we made space for 3 children. If you have 2, that's fine. 4, however many you're homeschooling, you can make space for. Something I like to do is something I also like to do when I was using paper planners, and that's color code for my children. So I would assign, I'd actually let my kids pick what color they wanted to be for the school year. And what that meant is that in my planning forms, I would color code them. And they never really see my planning forms anyway, but it was just for me because I don't want to have to sit here in each cell and type out, you know, Leif is doing this, Sofiane is doing this, John is doing that, Susie's doing that. It just takes too much time. I'm going to assign each of my children a color, and that's their color in my plan for the whole entire year. And what I actually do is when they pick a color, I also coordinate this with their folders that they keep on our homeschooling shelves. So I give them one of those nice paper folders that you get at the dollar store or Walmart and have pockets inside. I give them one folder for every subject and I put it inside of a magazine rack. So each one of my children has their own magazine rack with their folders that are the same color they picked for the year. And that's where they keep all of their stuff throughout the year. So it all stays organized. So let's say that your first child, I'm going to adjust my view here a little bit so I can see everything in one shot. Let's say your first child wants to pick the color blue, okay? We're gonna highlight the first row all the way across because this is where you keep your first child's information at, okay? And this is assuming that all of your children are working on different things. So if you have children that are really spread apart age-wise and level-wise, ability-wise, they may very likely be working out of different levels of the same curriculum or different curriculum altogether. So this is another reason the color coding helps is because you can keep all of these things straight as you're planning. So I'll highlight this whole section here because this is going to be where my first child's going to go. And I'm going to apply the same conditional formatting rule that I did before. But this time I'm going to pick the color that they select. So we're going to go format, conditional formatting, okay? If the cell's not empty, same as we did before, I'm not going to bold it this time. I will do black text so I can see it clearly. And we're going to make the background blue. So now as I'm typing into these cells, it will automatically color them. And I know that when I'm looking at this blue row all the way across, I'm looking at that first child, whatever their name happens to be. Maybe this is Leif, maybe this is John, maybe this is Susie. Whoever picked blue for the year, that's whose assignments I'm looking at. Okay, and you can do this with your whole entire form. So all you have to really do is now copy this, and you should be able to paste it, and the rule should follow. Okay. We're going to keep pasting it all the way down, and the rule will follow all the way across the board. You see that? So you guys can pick the color for your first child and put it in, and someone is raising their hand. Oh, okay, so someone missed how I got the lines in the box of children. Yes, I will show that again. 1 second. So I'm gonna come down out of my frame. Let's say I'm working in this tiny little cell right here. It's not enough space for all of my children. What I'm going to do is just highlight and then right click to insert one above. Okay, and then one above again. And then I would merge all these here with my merge tool. And then this becomes my subject title. And then these are the 3 lines for my children that we later on adjust their size as we need to. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to come back up here. Did everyone get their first child color coded? We're using that same conditional formatting tool. Once you have your first child color coded, you can color code your second child. We're going to do the same exact thing. You're just going to pick a different color. I'm going to show it again. This time we're going to highlight row 2 all the way across. Format, conditional formatting. If the cell is not empty, we're going to have our text be black. And we're going to pick our second color. Maybe our second child picks green. Okay, so now that rule is applied. Now when I type in these boxes, my code will automatically apply and color code it for that child. And if I want to apply it to the rest of the document, I'm just going to copy it and I'm going to paste it where it belongs all the way across the rest of the document. Okay, and so now I have my color coding in for my children. And these are for all of their subjects for every month of the year. Okay, and then we can do the same thing with our third child. Highlight the rows, format, conditional formatting, the cell's not empty, black text. You can choose whatever text color you want. And actually, let me actually show you this. So let's say that you don't like this block method of color coding. You just want to color code your text instead. This is very similar to what you would have done with a paper planner. You would have bought a pretty little pen, maybe with some glitter inside of it, and you would have just written in your colored pen. So we can do that here too. Instead of, we'll highlight all the cells, format, conditional formatting, not empty, and now we want our background to be white, but we want our text to be a different color. Maybe this person picked this kind of pinky color here. So now the text will show up in that color. So now when I type, now I have this pink text instead of a pink box. So this is another way that you can color code your sheets. And something I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to come back up to my 100% view so I can actually read this. So there's two options of color coding for your children. You can color code the whole box, or you can color code just the text. And with both of them, you're going to use conditional formatting, so that way you can apply those rules across the board and not have to individually repeat these coloring steps every single time you type. You're done color coding all three kids. Awesome, Taha. Great job. Okay, is everyone done color coding their children? Their imaginary children, for the sake of this talk? Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of other things. Is everyone doing okay? No one's falling asleep? You can go a few more minutes. Yes? Okay. So now let's say that, let's talk about for a minute about how to type in our information, okay? Let's just erase this stuff for now. I'm just gonna highlight all of this and delete it. It's not gonna delete my, my code, it's just gonna delete whatever I typed in there. So now how do I put in my information? So if I'm looking at math for September, I can put in my information the very long way. I can say Saxon Math. Well, let's actually do Right Start. That's the one I'm familiar with. Right Start Math, and my typing skills are terrible. Right Start Math, Level A, lessons 1 through 14. I can do that, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I don't like typing things out completely because I usually do this. I just like to save a little bit of time whenever I can. So I'm actually going to code my typing. So if my math program is Right Start, I'm just going to pick the first two letters. It's going to be RS. If the level that that child is working on is level A, I'm going to say RSA, and then I'm going to go 1 through 14 if that's how many lessons they need to do that month. And so when I look at my form, I know that for math, we're on Right Start level A, lessons 1 through 14. I just code the text whenever I can. Excuse me. And so you can also code for whatever programs and curricula you are using. Now, if you're not using a curricula because you don't formally homeschool your children in that way, or maybe you're unschoolers, maybe you are following a Waldorf mindset and you guys are block scheduling instead, and you don't have necessarily broke down lessons that are numbered, that's okay. This wouldn't be RSA 1 through 14. This might be a geometry block, right? And the next block might be an algebra block. So for that whole month, you know that you're focused on these general topics. And then in your weekly planning, you would reverse plan or advanced plan, however you want to approach that. And you would put down the specifics of what you're doing with this. So this really just gives you that idea of what to look forward to during that month. And you can really use it however it is that you homeschool. Okay, so now how do I know how many lessons I would need to do in the year? I get asked this question a lot, right? How do you know what you need to cover? What I do is when I get my book in, I go to the end of the book and I see how many lessons there are. So let's say if my book has 100 lessons in that year to be covered over 10 months, I just divide that by the number of months. And I know that every month I'm gonna have 10 lessons. This is gonna be 1 through 10. This is gonna be 11 through 20. This one is gonna be 21 through 30, and so on and so forth. And now if you don't get to all of those lessons in that month, that's okay. You can just adjust the next cell. So let's say in November, we only got up to lesson 26 instead of lesson 30. That's not a problem. When I come to December, I will just adjust it and I'll say we're starting at 27 this month, but I'm still gonna add the 10 because our goal is to get through 10 lessons in order to finish them. Okay, and I would just make those adjustments as needed. And when I finish with a month, if I look back at the month in our weeklies and I say, hey, look, we did 1 through 10, then I'm done with this. And now it's kind of like when you write a list for yourself. When you write a list of things you need to do, you usually cross it out when you're done. So I'd highlight this box and I would do strike through, which is my version of crossing it out in sheets. And it puts a nice, neat little line right through that. So I know that when I look at this, we already finished those. There's nothing to carry over. Is everyone with me on this point? So if they have several things that they're doing in math, workbooks, drills, project, does each one give a block? You don't have to, no. So what I would do is, again, this is our monthly view. So this is just general month to month what we're looking at. What I would do is during the weekly view, when you reverse plan or advance plan, depending on how you approach that, that's where you put the specifics. So for example, on this week of September, on Monday, we did drills from this page. On Wednesday, we did a project from this. On Thursday, we did XYZ. That's where you put those little nitty-gritty specifics. You can list them out here, but just knowing lessons that you're covering is usually enough for a month view, because then I can go to my book, look through those lessons to see what needs to be done. So I don't put children's names. Maza's asking where the children's names go and why. I don't need to put children's names inside of my sheets if I'm color coding them. That's kind of the point of color coding, so I don't have to write their specific names. I just assign them a row and then they get a color. So everything that's blue, for example, would be, let's say it's Hadi, Maza. Everything that is in the second row, green or red or whatever, would be Eunice. Those are her children's names. Okay, so you just color code those children. If you want to use their names because you don't like color coding, you can if you want to. But I just don't. I like to color code. Any other questions about how to put in your subjects? So I'd had a question. What if you had several things to do? Yes, I just answered that one. Anybody else? No, no worries. Okay, so now, it's okay, thank you. So now let's say we have 2 children, but we do a lot of things together. So maybe this third column, I could delete it if I wanted to, but let's say I want to leave it because I want to use this third column as a way of showing the things that we do together. So I'll assign a color for what we do together. Maybe it'll be completely different from whatever the colors is that my children chose. So it won't be blue, it won't be green, it'll be something else. And then these are things that I write down together. So for example, if we're doing math projects together, then this will be where that goes. This will be a project on swirls in nature, for example, because swirls are a mathematical concept that can be found in nature, but it ties in with our math understanding, our math lesson. So I will color code that to be the color we use together as a family for family learning. Okay. And I'll show you an example from my own planning that is underway. It's not complete yet, but you can see how this is my personal monthly plan. And so you can see in math, now again, I'm homeschooling 4 children, but I only really keep track of 3 of them. And in our house, we do a lot of things together as a family. The only things I really separate per child are the skills-based things like math, sometimes elements of language arts like spelling, things like that. But so you can see one of my sons has chosen black for the year, and these are his math assignments for his curriculum. And 2 of my other sons, my younger ones, they actually work on the same level together. So together their color is this blue color here. Okay, and you can see they're actually different levels of the same curriculum. I have RS, which is Right Start, and then this son is on E, and then these 2 children are on C. But you can see our language arts, we're doing Brave Rider Arrows, and this is our color for doing things all together. So we do our language arts all together. We're doing our science all together. And for my case, I actually, for Suad, who was asking about projects and things like that, what I did was I used these cells because we are doing our science together. I used the first cell to just name the actual lessons that we'd be going over. And then I used the second cell to identify exactly which labs and projects I wanted to do. And this is, again, all after discussion with my children. So my children actually handpicked each one of the animals and the labs that we are going to be doing this year. And then we added in some extra projects based on our family discussions. Okay, so this is another way of doing it. Our social studies is another thing that we do together as a family. I don't separate that based on levels. So you can see all of our middle ages lessons are outlined based on the curriculum that we use for that. They also wanted to do a drawing course this year for art. So I have all of their drawing lessons outlined lesson by lesson based on the book that we're using for that. So this is just an example of what it could look like at the end when you're all done filling it out. Now I'm going to show you a few more things before we go. Let's say you don't want to strike through. If you don't like the look of striking things out, crossing them out when you're done. Maybe you're a person who prefers checkboxes and you want to be able to add in a checkbox to show when you're finished with something. I'm going to show you how to do that in Sheets. What we first need to do is for every month, and I'm only going to do it on a couple of months because I'm just showing you, we would insert a new column. So we're going to click on that column that we want. I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert one to the right, and it's going to bring me a new column here. Okay. Now you would do this after every month. So I'm going to do it again after January, and I'm going to stop there because this is just to show you guys. And from here at the bottom, I'm going to highlight from the same spaces where the title would be. I'm going to highlight down my sheet, and I'm going to insert, and I'm going to insert checkbox. So now I have these checkboxes that are automatically coded I actually didn't need it there at the top. Let me redo that. Let me highlight it from the first cell of where my information is going to go. Okay, so there's my checkboxes, right? And so now when you finish an assignment, you don't want to strike it through, you can just check it off instead. And it will automatically follow the color code that you put in if you want it to be color coded. If you don't want it to be color coded, you can just adjust that in your conditional formatting like I showed you earlier. Okay, and so we can do the same thing here. We can copy it and then paste it into the new columns that we added. So now for and then what I would do is I would merge these two together so that way my title actually covers both of these. So this checkbox now becomes part of that month, but this is too wide. So I'm going to select both of these columns and I'm going to move them in to make my checkbox column smaller. Okay, so you can have checkboxes. You can also put grades. So for those of you who are homeschooling older children, maybe upper middle school, maybe high school, where grades become a fact of life for your homeschooling because you have to keep transcripts and such, we can do a very similar thing and put in grades. Let me check the questions real quick. Okay, no problem. So we're gonna do grades. So I'm gonna highlight here again, right click, insert one right. Grade is going to be our data tool. So I'm going to come to data and I'm going to come down to data validation. Okay, this is just applying a rule. It's basically how you insert drop-down menus into your cells. Okay, we're going to select from a list of items and I'm going to put in the range of my grades. I'm going to do simple letter grades for now. If you need actual percentage grades, you can put that in as well. You know, you can put 90, 80, 70, whatever it is you need to put in. I'm going to put in my list. It'll show it in a drop-down list. Save that. And then now I have these nice little arrows that come down from my drop-down menu. So if this were my weekly sheet, for example, that has the specific assignments that needed to get done, I can simply select from my drop-down and I can put a grade with that assignment for my older child who needs those transcripts. Okay, so you have those options as well. You can put checkboxes, you can do grades, you can do strike-throughs. Are there any questions about these? Okay, great. How can you remove formatting on cells to do a new formatting for subjects done together? Great. Okay, so removing formatting on cells to do a new formatting for subjects done together. Okay, so let's come down to here. So I'm just going to do that part on this section here, Tahira, okay? Just 'cause I don't want to mess with what we've done over here. So if I want to remove this formatting, I'm going to come here to conditional formatting. And you see I have this rule here. It's already applied. I'm going to trash that rule. And then all I have to do is add a new rule to it. So if I want this to be my combined because my family is working together, I'll just do the same black text. I'll pick a new color. Let's say orange, and that will now be that new color for that cell section. Okay, so all you have to do is trash the rule when you don't want to use it, and then build a new rule. Okay. So add, can you show the grades again? Yes, I will show the grades again right now. The next question, Farida is asking, is there a limit how many files can be stored when using Google Sheets? So I don't know if there's really a limit. What Google Sheets does allow is, I mean, Google Drive, they give you a huge amount of space once you open up your Gmail account. I think a couple of gigs. But when you do these sheets, like at the bottom, let me move this video out of the way. When you do these sheets here, I'm sorry, this is one sheet, right? This is our untitled spreadsheet right now because this is just the dummy sheet that I'm working out of. But at the bottom, you have all these tabs, okay? So if you wanted another version of this, like let's say this was our weekly sheet and I need 1 week for every week of the school year, what I do is I just duplicate these sheets. So I duplicate It shows up right next to it, and then I just rename it with the new dates for that week. And then I duplicate, and then I just rename it with the dates of that week. So what it does is it automatically carries over all of my formatting. And then all I have to do is come in here, and I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit so you can see. I'm just gonna come in here, I'm gonna select all of this in the middle, and I'm gonna delete it so that way it clears. And then I'm starting my week off fresh with whatever I put in, but all of my formatting is all still there. Okay, so you just keep duplicating sheet after sheet after sheet. And like I said, I have been doing this for years now, and every year I have one little tab for every week of my school year, and then I just save the entire sheet as, you know, 2019 to 2020 weekly sheets or weekly assignments, whatever you decide to name it. And then I have another sheet for 2020 to 2021, and you just keep going and going. Yes, we are recording this. There will be a replay. And for those of you who feel like building this out is a little bit too complicated for yourself, that's okay. We will also be sending out a link for a template pack that I actually created that is already fully built out, up to 7 subjects, up to 4 children. You can add or remove whatever you want. There's a lot of the rules already applied, and you can just start customizing from there. Okay, so I think that was all of the questions for how to keep track weekly. I'm going to show you an example of the weekly on the template pack in 1 minute. I just do want to show you guys one last thing before we end this talk, okay? Because it is very, very useful. I'm going to come back to my 100% view. So now remember we came to our subjects and our month of the years. I'm going to highlight this real quick. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little larger because it's very small right now, and I'm also going to bold it so I can see it better. And I'm also going to make these boxes yellow, okay? But now what I wanted to show you is because when I'm scrolling up and down, what happens? When I scroll down and when I scroll over here to the right, what happens? Where am I now? How do I know what month I'm in or what subject I'm on? How do I know what month or what subject I'm on? I really don't, right? Because it all disappeared. As soon as I start scrolling away from these month titles, I kind of end up in this no man's land down here of just nothingness, right? And I don't want that to happen. So what I'm gonna do is this the sheet that I was showing you guys on? This is the copy, okay. That's fine, let's stick with this one. So, I'm sorry, let me go back and do this on the sheet that I was working with you guys on. So all I did was I highlighted this, I made this larger, I bolded it, and I made the background yellow just so it stands out, okay? But now again, when I come down and I scroll to the right or down, I end up in these areas that I don't know what information is here or what's not. So what I want to do is I want to freeze these rows up here so that they don't move when I scroll. Okay, so we're going to highlight all of our month titles up here. Okay, and we're going to view and we're going to freeze. Now you see this gray bar that just got added all the way across? That gray bar holds everything above it still. So now when I scroll down, my month titles never disappear again. They stay put right where I need them to be. And I'm going to do the same thing with my subject titles over here. So I highlight it all, I go to view, and then I go to freeze, and I'm going to freeze that column. And there's my other gray bar all the way down. So now if I scroll up or down, that stays put, and if I scroll left or right, my information stays put. So even if I'm all the way out here at the end, I know that I'm looking at my science column for March, April, May, and June. I never lose track of where I am in typing out my information. Okay. Breathe, nice. Yes, Ali. Did I click one row for the months row? Yeah, so what I actually did is I highlighted from September all the way to June, and I did it on the row I wanted to freeze. So I didn't start it from up here and come down. I started it just on from September to June, just that little skinny row there. And then I view and I freeze up to the current row number. So if you look at the left side, it'll tell you what row number that is. We're on row number 4. So I freeze up to row number 4, which means anything above that will get frozen in place. Yep, and I did it for the subjects as well, Nora. So I just highlighted from my first subject down. I selected view and I froze, and in this sense, I just froze one column because that's all I had highlighted. So it froze that one column, and that one column is now frozen. And you can know it's frozen because, again, you see these gray bars that all of a sudden got added onto there, okay? So the freezing option is a very nice little tool to make sure that your guidelines never get lost. You don't end up in no man's land anymore, confused about what you're typing and where, all right? So that's freeze. Okay, so we are getting a little bit lengthy on the time here. Google Drive has tons of things that can be shown. I'm gonna just show you guys whatever questions I didn't get to, I will definitely look back through and I can try to reply to you guys privately. But I do just wanna show you very quickly our template pack that we made that will be for sale. We're gonna be sending out a link in the email to everybody who registered today. And if you guys are interested in starting off with the template, you'll be able to. Okay, so now obviously we have our copyright information and our instructions that are going to be included with this. But then we also included a yearly planning master sheet that's already color coded and broke down for you. We also have our monthly planning master sheet that's again color coded and broke down for you, up to 7 subjects, up to 4 kids. You can always add or take away whatever you need now that you have the tools for that. You also will have a weekly planning master, and here I've incorporated the check boxes as well as the grading options for those of you that are working with older children. And then there's also a daily assignment task template. So I know a lot of families are all about giving their kids those daily assignment sheets, so that way they can help encourage their children to take on more independence and responsibility over their own time management and schedules. So I've included a template for that as well. And for those of you that do have older children that are maybe they have their own Gmail accounts and their own drives, you can actually just share that file direct with your child's Gmail, and they can electronically communicate all about it. They can fill in their own assignments, they can leave you comments, you can comment back on their work, and yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really do hope that it was a help and a benefit. And if there's any last minute questions, I can try to take them now. I just don't want to keep people too long because we are over the hour mark, and I know this gets exhausting sometimes. All right, oh, grades please, I'm sorry, so yes, let me bring my screen back up and I will show you the grades one last time. Okay. Let me come back to my sample. We're over here. Okay, so for the grades, I'm going to do it here on this column, Saad. So all we're going to do is we're going to select this whole column here, and we're going to right click, and we're going to add another column to the right. Okay, and in this column, I'm going to now select from the first, I'm going to select from the first cell of that new column, okay? I don't want to start it from all the way up here. I'm going to start it from the first cell. I'm going to highlight down, and then I'm going to go to data and data validation. Data validation is where we get those drop-down menus from. And there's different options for your data validation. We're going to do a list of items, and I'm just going to simply type in my list. So we're going to do basic grades, A, B, C, D, F for right now. Okay, it will show in a drop down. It will also show you a warning in case you're trying to put something in there that doesn't meet the rule. We're going to save it, and then you see those arrows, they automatically pop up. So now all you need to do is whatever that assignment ends up being, you can simply select the grade for that assignment, and it will automatically color code for your child because we have it in a formatted column already. And if you want to reduce the size of this column, obviously you can just bring it in, make it smaller or larger as you need to. Okay. Answers Saad. Where's the chat box? Okay, I don't know why my chat box is disappearing. Oh, here we go. Okay. Thanks, Am. I'm so glad you came, mashallah. My moral support. Oh, great, Fatin, you had your daughters watching with you. Yes, this is an excellent tool to even teach your children how to use. Google Drive is a lot of fun. Sheets can be a lot of fun. You can even incorporate Sheets into projects for your homeschool. There's also slide presentations you can do with Google that your children can use. My son actually did a slide presentation for one of his co-op classes. So he got to learn how to use slides a little bit, and that was a lot of fun for him. So these are all tools that once you get a hang of, you can definitely share with your kids. Great. I'm just surfing the chat box for questions, last minute questions. My front row is not freezing. Oh, my month row is not freezing. I already froze the subject. Okay, so Fatma, if you just select from the first month all the way down to the end where you want to freeze, view, freeze, and up to that row number. And it should freeze it for you. My chat box disappeared again. Okay, guys, my chat box is disappearing. I don't know where it keeps going. All right, I'm gonna stop the screen share so I can access the chat easier. Okay, great. Aisha needs to see check marks again. Oh, she figured it out. Great, Fatima. Yes, the recording will be shared through the email. So anyone who registered will have access to the recording. Just be a little patient with us. As already, we want to make sure that it's good quality and everything when we do send it out. Yeah. Okay, guys. Oh, I couldn't get the cells the same size on the Mac. So I don't know what the Mac controls are, but if you highlight those cells from the edge and then you use the arrow button to expand at the bottom, it should make them all the same size. I just don't know how to select on a Mac. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I do use a PC for myself. Oh, thank you, Nora and Christina, for helping her with that. Okay, awesome. All right, guys, so I'm going to close out our meeting now. Thank you so much for coming. I really do. I was so happy to have you all here, and I do hope this was a benefit to you. If you have any other questions, please email us at info@learnwithwildflower.com. You can also our website, which is not completely finished yet, but we do have a page there that will allow you to subscribe to our mailing list. And you can select all the different options for the kind of mail you would like to receive. You can do that at www.learnwithwildflower.com. Thanks, guys.